99% of India is one hospitalization away from bankruptcy. As soon as you start making money, your first step is not investing. In India, insurance is sold as an investment, which is the worst investing mistake that you will ever make. On SIP also, I will tell you the biggest problem that people do. My thumb rule is that if you have 100 rupees, make sure that your expenses are 30% of that. Your EMI is 30-40%, and the remaining 30% is what you are investing.
Somebody who is, say, 25 years old
Sure.
and is making 25k a month. At the age of 40, they want to have a corpus of, say, 8.5 CR.
Okay.
Can they do that?
Now, if you are able to do this at 12% assumption, mathematically, you become financially independent at the end of the 180th month from today. My understanding of wealth creation is pretty simple, and if I have to sum that up for you in a simple formula.
In this podcast, we talked about how you can earn more money, invest better, and become financially free by the time you hit 40. Before we begin, I would love for you to share this video with one person in your network whom you think can benefit from this video and can learn the money mindset that we've talked about in this video. Also, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and if you're here for the first time, I would love for you to leave a comment on what did you take away from this video. All right, let's get started. So let's do one thing. Let's take a persona of somebody who is, say, 25 years old,
Sure.
lives in tier 1 India,
Sure.
and is making around about 25k a month.
Sure.
At the age of 40, they want to have a corpus of, say, 8.5 CR.
Okay.
Can they do that?
They can't.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm starting, but like I said, I want to be extremely realistic when I talk to you and for people who are watching us. I'll tell you what the biggest problem is. The biggest problem in the country today is everybody is talking about investing. And fortunately, unfortunately, everybody's told you that as soon as you get your first job, start your SIP. Don't waste time, right? You have to be extremely young so that compounding works in your
Right.
favor. All of that is correct, right? But it is very superficial for an individual. Why? Because if you want to make 5 crore, 10 crore in a matter of 15 years through an investment journey, you actually need a very high investable corpus. So let's do some math to try and help you understand what am I saying. You said 8.5 crores, right?
Yep.
So let's say if I have to talk about doing 8.5 crores, right?
Yep.
8 crore 50 bucks. So 8.5 crores, I'm assuming 12% return because that's a fair expectation to have. And we are talking about 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? So 180 months. You will need a 1,78,000 rupee SIP for you to be able to, between 25 and 40, be able to accumulate 8.5 crore rupees. Now, 1,75,000 rupees a month of investment will at least require you to make 4-5 lakh rupees as income.
Right.
And we are talking about somebody who's making 25,000 rupees a month. It's impossible. So the first thing actually is not to start investing. The first thing is for you to be able to build a career for yourself. Look, my understanding of wealth creation is pretty simple. And if I have to sum that up for you in a simple formula, how do you become wealthy or how do you create wealth? You create wealth with a summation of how much you invest, how long you invest, and how much return do you make on it.
Yep. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is in your hand? How much you invest, how long you invest. What is not in your hand is how much return you will make on it. Unfortunately, पूरी जनता कितना रिटर्न बनेगा उसके ऊपर फोकस करती है, जो उसके हाथ में ही नहीं है. और जो उसके हाथ में है कि कितना इन्वेस्ट कर सकता हूं और कितने समय तक इन्वेस्ट कर सकता हूं, उस पर फोकस ही नहीं है. So you are trying to win a battle which is not in your favor. So as a young individual, your job is not to try and maximize returns. Your job is to try and maximize your investment amount and try and make sure that you stay for as long as possible. So अगर 8.5 करोड़ करना है तो आपको ये पता है 1,80,000 रुपए की SIP चाहिए, ठीक है? अब आप कुछ भी कर लो इन्वेस्टिंग से, आप वो 5 करोड़ या 8.5 करोड़ नहीं जमा कर पाओगे। पर अगर आप करियर पे फोकस करोगे, एक्टिव इनकम बढ़ाने की कोशिश करोगे, and if you excel in your career, you will have a higher disposable income that you might be able to save and hence reach that goal. So I think if there are young professionals who are watching us, because that is what I believe your audience is, do not focus on getting your first SIP started. And you will be surprised as an investment professional, I'm telling you. But the fact of the matter is that your career is more important for you to be able to build that wealth and not just investing. Because career will give you that scope to be able to invest more so that you are able to reach a larger goal. Yes, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that investing is bad. You should start investing. तो अगर आपके पास 25,000 रुपए है तो आप चालू करो 5,000 रुपए से. But don't think of 10 crore rupees in 15 years. It's not achievable unless your 25 lakh of salary becomes 5 lakh of salary and your 5,000 of SIP becomes 1,80,000 of SIP. You will not be able to reach this.
So let's come to a granular level. And let's say somebody makes their first salary. How should they look at investing? What should be their first step to start investing?
I think that's a very interesting question. And again, I will tell you, as soon as you start making money, your first step is not investing. Let me explain to you how. You will be surprised if you look at some data, and I'm not wrong in quoting this, that 99% of India is one hospitalization away from bankruptcy. What I mean by that is, if you or your family member, right, and I'm talking about 90% of India, not 99, let's say 90% of India, meet through an accident or are hospitalized for whatever reason, the medical inflation in India is kicking in at such a high pace that probably if that individual of yours is in the hospital for 15-20 days, 90% of India will get bankrupt. उनके पास उतना पैसा ही नहीं है.
Right.
The first thing that I educate people to do is risk management. When you get your first salary, the first thing that you really want to do for yourself is get a medical insurance for yourself. Okay? Because imagine a situation, आपने 5,000 की SIP चालू कर दी, आपने 5 साल तक पैसा इन्वेस्ट किया, तो 5 साल में आपने मान लो 5,000 रुपए की SIP के हिसाब से 3 लाख रुपए इन्वेस्ट किया और 5 लाख रुपया हो जाएगा. 5 lakh rupees is nothing at the end of the 5th year if there is a medical emergency at your place. तो आपने 5 साल थोड़ा 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 पैसा करके जमा किया, वो आपके काम भी नहीं आएगा मेडिकल एक्सपेंस में. The first thing that you really want to do is make sure that you have a medical insurance in place. Once you have a medical insurance in place, the second thing you want to do is get a term insurance for yourself. What is term insurance? Term insurance का मतलब है कि आप अगर 25 साल के हो, आपने 1 करोड़ का इंश्योरेंस ले लिया, तो शायद आपको 7-8 हजार साल का प्रीमियम पे 1 करोड़ का कवर मिलेगा. What that means is कि अगले 25-30-40 सालों में if anything happens to you, 1 crore rupees is what your family will receive as a compensation because they took this term insurance. Now, if nothing happens to you over the next 25-30 years, you don't get anything back. That is the product you want to have. Because imagine paying 5,000-7,000 rupees even for 30 years. How much have you paid? 1.5 lakh rupees over 30 years. But anything happens to you, your family receives a crore.
Right.
So let's say if anything happens to you at the end of the 3rd year, you've invested 15,000 rupees, your family will receive a crore. That is the replacement for you as an individual. Because please understand, still most of the India is today also dependent on the kid for their retirement planning. So what the parents do in India is invest everything that they have in your education, your marriage, right? And then they're dependent on their retirement on you. Imagine if something happens to you. What happens to their retirement? Or imagine if you are married, something happens to you, what happens to your wife or your spouse in general? Investing is not as important as risk management. Now, once you've got your health insurance in place, once you've got a term insurance in place, is where you start looking at wanting to start invest.
Hmm.
But before I move there,
Yeah.
the problem on insurance is most people today who end up working in corporate India, they think my company is covering me. Why do I need an insurance outside? That's a very wrong thought process to have. Now, I'm making a generic comment. There may be somebody who's working at a place who might not have this, but this is very general and in my observation that cover is too small. Okay, that in a lot of cases does not cover your spouse, does not cover your parents. So many problems, right? What if you move to a new company, that new company does not cover or does not have a cover? What if you've grown old? What if unfortunately you end up getting some diseases when you move to another organization and those guys don't cover you and then you have to take a cover? You might not even get a health insurance because of your medical.
Right.
So ideally, even if your company covers you, you need to have a separate insurance for yourself and your family. So once you have a medical insurance, once you have a term insurance, is when the only thing, in my opinion, that you really have to do is start an SIP for yourself. If you are able to do this much, I think you're through. You don't need to do anything complicated, right? Yes, you might not have coffee table discussions to do with your friends when you go out saying that this is the stock that I bought or that's the startup that I invested in. Most people don't need that. Okay. All you need is a simple SIP along with both of these things, and you are sorted for most part of your life. On SIP also, I will tell you the biggest problem that people do is underinvestment. Now, what do I mean when I say underinvestment? Underinvestment means that, let's say your salary is a lakh of rupee and your SIP is 2,500, 5,000 rupee. Please understand, you're theoretically investing, but this is not enough at all at the pace at which your income and expenses are going to grow in the future.
Right.
Underinvestment is a big, big problem in the country. Yes, you might want to start small because you don't understand
Right.
and are not very comfortable and all of that. But as soon as you understand, right, you will have to increase your SIP to the level where it ends up making a meaningful contribution for you in the future for all the money that gets accumulated over a period of time. So I think that's the starting point.
So double tapping on this, what should be their percentage of their income people should invest in SIPs?
Look, like I started when I spoke, it is personal finance, right? So finance is secondary, personal is very important.
Yes.
Now there are different set of people who will have different problems in their life, right? Somebody would say that I live with my parents, I don't need to pay a rent. Somebody says that I live in a place, I don't have a house for myself, I have to rent it. Somebody says I bought a house, I have a EMI to pay. Someone will have a very big lifestyle expense. Somebody stays very conservative. There are all set of people. But let's say if I have to answer your question, give you a thumb rule. My thumb rule is that if you have 100 rupees, technically try and make sure that your expenses are 30% of that.
Okay.
Your EMI is 30-40%. And the remaining 30% is what you are investing. So, let's say if I have a lakh of rupee of salary, hypothetically, then I am looking at not spending more than 30,000 rupees for my living and lifestyle expenses. I will try, and I emphasize on this word try, to keep my EMIs in the range of 30 to 40,000 rupees and try and invest another 30,000 rupees if I can. Now, if you are able to do this at 12% assumption, mathematically, you become financially independent at the end of the 180th month from today.
Okay.
In 15 years.
Okay.
So let me show you some math, right? So we are saying that your expense today is 30,000 rupees. Suppose if I increase your expense by 6%, which is fair to assume as inflation rate. And if I talk about 15 years, okay, your expense at the end of the 15th year will become 72,000 rupees. Okay. Now, if I say that you are investing 30,000 rupees a month, and I'm assuming 12% return, which is again a fair return expectation for 180 months, which is 15 years.
Yeah.
I will be able to accumulate roughly 1 crore 42 lakh rupees. Okay. So now, if I have to provide for 72,000 into 12, 8,64,000 rupees for you at the end of the 15th year, and I have, how much was it? 1 crore 42 lakhs available with me as maturity value. My investments need to make me 6% return. So look at it this way. 30,000 of my expense becomes 72,000 at the end of the 15th year at 6% inflation.
Yeah.
30,000 of my investment every month becomes 1.4 crores. Now, if I invest 1.4 crore in a way where my 1.4 crore can make 6% return, then I will be able to give you 72,000 every month, which is actually your expense.
Right.
So if you follow this rule, you can actually become financially independent in probably 180 months. Now look, this is math. Okay. You and I may continue to argue saying that my expenses may go up much more than what they are. Then the argument is, so will your income.
Right.
And if your income goes up, you should invest more.
Yeah.
So look, there are a lot of combinations that you and I can argue and debate. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is that if you follow a structure, it's not very difficult to be able to build wealth and use that wealth for passive income over a period of time. Numbers may differ because you come from a different background, I come from a different background, our challenges are very different from each other. Because let's say, for example, if I'm talking to somebody and somebody who's listening to us neither has an EMI nor has a rent. So versus a 30,000 rupee of investment, this guy can easily do a 50,000-60,000 a month.
Right.
And still be able to live a lifestyle much more than what we are currently talking about. Right? And that guy is going to be able to build wealth much faster than somebody else.
Yep.
So I think it's a very personal thought, but the point is very simple, that whatever you are spending, if you are able to save that much, then all you need is 15 years to become financially independent.
So Kirtan, अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं, with your experience in the with handling other people's investments, their money, their corpus, what do you think in 2026 will Indian market give better returns?
Point number one, I would sincerely suggest people not to look at 1 year return and invest at all. It's easy for me to make a commentary here, but you and I might not be able to reach out to the same set of audience when the thesis that I'm presenting right now change in the next 3 months. So disclaimer before I answer that question. But I'll tell you what's happening to India. Okay. And because your question is specific to 2026 and I'm answering it specific to 2026. You look at the last 12, 15, 18 months, Indian markets have significantly underperformed the global markets. You look at China, you look at Japan, you look at Europe, you look at, I don't know if I said China, but South Korea, Latin America, all of these markets have generated anywhere between 20 to 80% returns. India is very low single-digit returns. Now, why did this happen? This happened because our valuations were expensive. This happened because in whatever Trump is doing, people have actually forgotten that we had a war in India in 2025. India and Pakistan went for a war. Third, Trump was extremely mad at us with 50% tariffs. So with that also what happened is a lot of business got disrupted. Disrupted may not be the right word, but businesses were not very aggressive till there was clarity. And business didn't really pick up or happen in 2025. all of that put together, India markets did not end up doing well. But in capital markets, you have to understand that everything is cyclical. When I say cyclical, everything has a cycle. So I think the last 12, 18 months was not a good India cycle. But another truth in capital markets is that cycles rotate, which means that if the last 12, 15, 18 months were not good, the probability of the next 12, 15, 18 months to be good is far higher. Now, of course, it cannot just be theoretical that cycles change, so India will do well. So what's working for India? Let's try and understand that. So if you look at the last year, which was 2025, interest rates were reduced by 125 bips, which is 1.25%. Whenever interest rates go down, your loans become cheaper, and cheaper loans will propel more consumption. Right? You will take more loans and consume more. You will take more home loans, buy more houses. You will take more car loans, buy more cars. It is positive for the stock market, right? So 125% interest rate fall was one very important thing that happened the last year, but it still didn't move the market. So I'm assuming it'll benefit in 2026. Second thing that happened was GST rates were cut. Again, GST rate cuts, for consumption, products become cheaper and hence the demand goes up, right? Cars became cheaper. So you will now probably be able to buy more cars, theoretically. And that's positive for stock markets. The third thing that happened was tax was reduced. So in the prior year, you had to pay no tax till 7.5 lakhs. Now you don't pay tax for 12.75 lakhs. So more people will have more disposable income. Again, more consumption and better for the stock market. Three very interesting things happened the last year. Please understand, markets are slaves to earnings at the end of the day. आप कितना भी ज्ञान दे दो, अगर कंपनी की अर्निंग्स नहीं आ रही अच्छी, तो मार्केट नहीं चलेगा. At the time you and I are recording this video, Q3 results have just got done. And 4 out of 500 listed companies, the top 500 listed companies, 456 companies have so far declared their results. And the PAT growth, profit after tax growth, year on year is a very good 15%. So what I'm trying to say is that 2025 was not great, but things were done like 1.25% rate cut, GST reduction, tax reduction, which will boost consumption, and the results of the companies have started to come back. And at the same time, everybody else globally went up. We stayed there. So now our valuation comparatively is much better than it was in 2024-25. These are some triggers why I think 2026 will be probably a better market, or rather India will be a better market than global equity markets.
You mentioned about people buying homes, home loans, car loans. Now, I won't go into details of whether people should buy or rent. That's again a personal decision to have, right? But say somebody wants to buy a home. They take a home loan. Now, on that particular subject, on home loans, do you have any tips on how people can pay off those loans quickly, on better strategies they can follow?
I think interesting question. So what I want the audience to understand is, first, please understand whether you are in the old tax regime or the new tax regime. If you are in the old tax regime, then you have a lot of advantages for the loan that you've taken.
Okay.
Right? The principal that you repay to the bank. So let's say your EMI is 80,000 a month. Hypothetically, 60,000 is the principal. 60,000 is the interest that you are paying to the bank, and 20,000 is the principal of that 80,000 that you are repaying to the bank. The 20,000 principal that you're paying into 12, which means you've paid 2,40,000 of principal, up to 1,50,000 you can claim as deduction. इसका मतलब आपका इनकम कम हो जाएगा और आपको 1.5 लाख रुपए पे टैक्स नहीं भरना है अंडर ATC, रूल ऑफ टैक्स. आपने इंटरेस्ट जो भी भरा है बैंक को, ठीक है, वो इंटरेस्ट भी आप क्लेम कर सकते हो एज डिडक्शन, राइट? सो इफ यू आर इन द ओल्डर टैक्स रेजिम, ओके, तो ये इंटरेस्ट आप 2 लाख रुपए तक क्लेम कर सकते हो। और अगर आपने दूसरा घर लिया है, इट्स योर सेकेंड हाउस, यू कैन क्लेम द एंटायर इंटरेस्ट एज deduction, which means if this is your second house, then 60,000 into 12, 7,20,000 rupees you can claim as deduction and not pay tax on 7,20,000 worth of income. So if you are in the older tax regime, you are sitting on a gold mine. तो आपको लग रहा है कि आपका होम लोन 7.5-8% पे, पर अगर आप ये सब टैक्स वैक्स एडजस्ट कर लोगे, आप शायद 3.5-4% से ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट नहीं दे रहे हो ऑन द लोन मैथमेटिकली. So if I have to give you a practical advice here, practical advice is never pay your home loan, right? Because if you've received a bonus, right, and that bonus if you invest in the mutual fund for let's say 10 years, you can easily make 12%. But in letting go of that 12%, what you're trying to do is pay off something where you are paying 3.5-4% as interest. यानी आपको मैंने 2 ऑप्शन दिया, 3.5-4% इंटरेस्ट कमाओ या 12% कमाओ, आपने 3.5-4 चूज किया, which is not logical. So if you pay off your loan, it is this situation that you are letting go of a 12% opportunity and selecting a 3.5-4% opportunity. In the new tax regime, there are no tax advantages, neither on the principal that you pay, neither on the interest that you pay if it's your first house. If it's your second house, then you can claim deduction up to the rent that you've received.
Okay. Earlier in the discussion, we were talking about people being dependent on their offsprings for their retirement plans, right? So, while we are here, what would you advise people who are, say, about 25 today? How should they plan that when they turn 60, 65, that they are set for themselves and don't need to depend on their kids for their retirement?
I think, look, retirement planning is the most ignored concept in India. People, for whatever reason, feel like you rightly said that their kids will take care of them. But I think we are westernizing at a much faster pace than we really realize.
True.
Right? And also we stay in a country where we don't have social security. What I mean when I say social security is that when you retire, the government does not take care of your medical bills or pay you a pension. You have to do it for yourself. So you are running a race that you are, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but don't take the other way around. You are running a race that you are educating your kid, you're getting a kid married, and then still risking whether the kid will take care of you or not. So you will still otherwise also take care of the kid's education and the marriage, but at the same time you also have to think of yourself and have a retirement plan for yourself. Okay, and which is why whenever you do investing, the investing always has to be goal-based investing. So you will have to sit with somebody who understands how to do this math, or very easily available on the internet. Just Google a retirement calculator, right? So what a retirement calculator will do for you is very simple. It'll ask you how much is your expense today. So you might probably input 50,000 rupees today. Okay, so let's do that calculation today. Okay, let's say somebody's 30 and is expected to retire at 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying the first question is, what is your current expense? So let's say this individual's current expense is hypothetically 5 lakh rupees a year. Just math, we work out very similar for everybody else. And we are saying inflation will increase at 6%. And we are saying that it is still 30 years away. Then when this individual retires 30 years from today, given the inflation, the annual requirement will be 30 lakh rupees post retirement for this individual. तो आज का 5 लाख का खर्चा 30 लाख का खर्चा हो जाएगा आज से 30 साल बाद. अभी हम कोई कॉम्प्लिकेशन नहीं करेंगे. मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि आपकी एक्सपेंसेस बढ़ेंगे, कम होंगे वगैरह वगैरह। आई एम अज्यूमिंग कि आप रिटायर हो जाओगे, उसके बाद आपकी लाइफस्टाइल एक्सपेंस भी बहुत ड्रास्टिकली ड्रॉप हो जाएगी। आप शायद उतने एक्सपेंसिव रेस्टोरेंट्स में जाके डिनर नहीं करोगे, कपड़े उतने नहीं खरीदोगे। तो मान के चलते हैं कि आपको 30 लाख रुपया ही चाहिए होगा आफ्टर यू रिटायर फ्रॉम 60 to 80 or let's say 85. So now we are saying कि आज का आपका 5 लाख का खर्च है, तो रिटायरमेंट पे 30 लाख रुपया हो जाएगा और आपको 30 लाख रुपया हर साल चाहिए अगले 25 सालों के लिए टिल यू आर 85। तो रिटायरमेंट पे आपके पास कितना पैसा होना चाहिए? सो लेट्स से इफ यू आर सेइंग दैट आई वुड वांट 30 लाख रुपीस each year for 25 years, and I am saying that because I will not be able to take risk, then I will only make 4% returns. Because आज से 30 साल बाद तो रेट ऑफ रिटर्न भी बहुत गिर जाएगा, तो हम 4% रिटर्न कमा पाएंगे। तो आपको रिटायरमेंट पे तकरीबन 4 करोड़ 90 लाख रुपीस चाहिए। सो लुक एट इट दिस वे, 5 लाख का आज का खर्चा है, वो रिटायरमेंट पे 30 लाख रुपए हो जाएगा। अगर हर साल आपको 30 लाख रुपया चाहिए अगले 25 सालों के लिए, तो रिटायरमेंट पे आपके पास तकरीबन 5 करोड़ रुपया होना चाहिए। अब आज आप 30 हो और 60 तक आपको 5 करोड़ चाहिए, तो हर महीना कितना इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा? सो लेट्स से इफ आई एम सेइंग कि मुझे 4 करोड़, एग्जैक्ट नंबर डाल देता हूं, 4 करोड़ 90 लाख रुपया चाहिए व्हेन आई रिटायर, ओके, और मैं 12% तक का रिटर्न जनरेट कर सकता हूं, और मेरे पास 30 साल है, यानी 360 मंथ्स है। तो मुझे हर महीना सिर्फ 16,000 रुपए इन्वेस्ट करना है। सो लुक एट इट दिस वे, 5 लाख का मेरा एक्सपेंस है, which will, now that I'm 30, my expense is 5 lakhs. When I retire at 60, my expense will become 30 lakhs. Now I want to provide for 30 lakhs each year for another 25 years. Then at retirement, I need 4 crore 90 lakhs. And for me to accumulate 4 crore 90 lakhs between 30 to 60, all I need to do is 16,000 rupees in SIP a month. Now, if you do 16,000 rupees in SIP a month, mota your retirement is taken care of. तो इफ यू गो बैक टू आवर ओरिजिनल डिस्कशन कि अगर आपका 5 लाख का खर्चा है तो आप 5 लाख इन्वेस्ट करो, तो आप वो 15 मंथ्स 15 इयर्स में इंडिपेंडेंट हो जाओगे फाइनेंशियली। तो आपने तो 5 लाख रुपए में से 17 into 12 सिर्फ 2 लाख रुपए रिटायरमेंट की तरफ रखे, बाकी 3 लाख रुपए कैन टेक केयर ऑफ योर अदर गोल्स एंड यू विल स्टिल हैव मनी लेफ्ट फॉर वेल्थ क्रिएशन ओवर एंड अबव ऑल ऑफ दीज गोल्स. So it's not very tricky. It is just that people don't do it.
Right.
Or they don't understand the math. It's actually pretty simple.
I think it's understanding only, because when we simplify things, like अभी जो आपने किया 6,000 is nothing. 16,000 रुपए is nothing. अगर लोगों को ये चीज पता है तो they will do that consciously. It's about the knowledge gap, I feel. कीर्तन, जब हम equities में invest करते हैं, we expect a 17 to 18% return. But जब हम इन्वेस्ट करते हैं फिक्स्ड इनकम स्कीम्स में, वी गेट अबाउट 7-8% रिटर्न, तो हम वहां पे क्यों इन्वेस्ट करते हैं फिर?
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो 17-18% इक्विटी का एक्सपेक्टेशन भी गलत है। एंड ग्लैड दैट यू आस्क्ड दिस क्वेश्चन, क्योंकि व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज अ लॉट ऑफ यंग पीपल, और व्हेन आई से यंग, आई डोंट मीन यंग बाय एज, आई मीन यंग बाय इन्वेस्टिंग एक्सपीरियंस, हैव कम टू द मार्केट्स आफ्टर कोविड।
राइट, यस,
राइट, और उनको, I'm sorry, and a lot of people will not like me making this statement, but they don't understand markets. But unfortunately, क्या हुआ ना, between 2021 and 2024, markets सिर्फ एक ही direction में गया, ऊपर. So everybody made money.
Right, yes.
And they started thinking they are very good at investing. It's only September of 24 onwards, जब market अपनी रियलिटी दिखाने लगा, if I can use that phrase, is when people understood that investing is not easy. Now what I want you to understand, how do you decide कि बॉस equity market से कितना रिटर्न एक्सपेक्ट करना चाहिए? कि आप 17-18 बोल रहे हो, मैं 12 बोल रहा हूँ, तो कौन सही है? So the answer to that question is, what is your expectation from the market? Your expectation from the market is the nominal GDP growth of your country. अब बहुत लोगों को जो इकोनॉमिक्स बैकग्राउंड से नहीं है उनको तो समझेगा भी नहीं मैंने क्या बोला. So what's nominal GDP? Nominal GDP is nothing but the rate at which your country grows. GDP plus the inflation of your country.
Okay.
उसको nominal GDP बोलते हैं. तो मान लीजिए आपकी कंट्री 6% पे ग्रो हो रही है, आपका इन्फ्लेशन 6% है, तो नॉमिनल जीडीपी 12%. तो इक्विटी मार्केट का एक्सपेक्टेशन होगा 12%.
Okay.
तो लास्ट ईयर इंडियाज नॉमिनल जीडीपी वाज 8 point something percent.
Okay.
So we grew at 7.5 types, and inflation was 0.5%, 1%, which is why last year our returns on the equity markets were pretty low. Right. So if you talk to anybody who understands, will tell you that expectation from the equity markets is your nominal GDP.
Okay.
तो नॉमिनल जीडीपी एक्सपेक्टेशन इंडिया से आने वाले 1 या 2 डेकेड में इज इजीली 10, 11, 12, which is why your fair expectation from the market is 12.
Right. Okay.
Now of course if you say that I'm going to do risky investing, मैं मिड कैप में डालूंगा, स्मॉल कैप में डालूंगा, माइक्रो कैप में डालूंगा, तो शायद आपकी रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन थोड़ी सी ज्यादा हो सकती है, एंड वो आपको वो फुलफिल भी करके देगा, क्योंकि मिड कैप कंपनीज ग्रो एट अ मच फास्टर पेस देन the larger companies. Small cap even grow at a much faster pace. Micro cap is even a smaller company that can grow at a significantly faster pace. But you have to understand कि उसमें volatility भी उतनी ज्यादा होगी.
Exactly.
यानी कल अगर मार्केट गिरा, निफ्टी 10% गिरेगा, तो ये माइक्रो कैप्स कैन फॉल as good as 30-40%. You should be okay with that volatility. अगर आप उस volatility के लिए okay हो ना, तो शायद आपको निफ्टी अगर 12 दे रहा है तो माइक्रो कैप 16 दे देगा. So you have to understand the risk versus the return expectation that you have. One. Now to answer your other part of the question.
Yeah.
कि फिक्स्ड इनकम में लोग इन्वेस्ट करते क्यों है? See, you have to understand two things. First, there are different people with different risk appetite. I am somebody who will invest in the equities market, and if the equity market falls 50% tomorrow, okay, I will still sleep peacefully without even blinking an eye. But there are people who, when invest 100 rupees in the market, if it becomes 99, they will lose their sleep. So there are people who have different risk appetite.
Right.
So first, जो conservative risk appetite वाला है ना, उसके लिए fixed income है, क्योंकि उसको अपना 99 नहीं करना है. And this guy is okay to compromise कि मेरे को 12% रिटर्न नहीं मिलेगा, चलेगा, I am happy with 7. तो वो वहाँ इन्वेस्ट करता है. Right. But aggressive investors also, or moderate investors also, in general, the best way to invest is to have an asset allocation. What is asset allocation? Asset allocation is to make sure कि आपने पूरा 100% पैसा आपका किसी भी एक चीज में नहीं डाल दिया. So what you do is, if you have 100 rupees, आपने मान लो आप एक aggressive investor हो, तो आपने conservative से start करते हैं. मान लो आप एक conservative investor हो, तो आपने क्या किया, 80% पैसा फिक्स्ड इनकम में रख दिया, क्योंकि आपको वॉलेटिलिटी नहीं चाहिए. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली फिक्स्ड इनकम इन्वेस्टिंग का एक प्रॉब्लम है कि वो इन्फ्लेशन को नहीं बीट करता. क्योंकि अगर ये 7% रिटर्न जनरेट करेगा और आप 30% के टैक्स ब्रैकेट में हो, तो बचेगा क्या, 4.9. इन्फ्लेशन 6% है, तो आप तो लॉस कर रहे हो. तो कंजर्वेटिव इन्वेस्टर को भी 20% इक्विटी में रखना है, कि यार बिना ज्यादा रिस्क बढ़ाए आपकी पोर्टफोलियो पे आप एटलीस्ट इन्फ्लेशन को तो बीट कर पाओगे. अब आप बोलोगे नहीं 20% तो बहुत ट्रिकी है, कल मार्केट गिर गया तो क्या. मैं तो कंजर्वेटिव इन्वेस्टर हूँ. लुक एट दिस मैथ. आपने 100 रुपए में से 80% फिक्स्ड इनकम में लगाया, हाइपोथेटिकली वो आपको 7% रिटर्न दे रहा है, तो 80 पे 7% रिटर्न इज 5.6. तो 5.6% रिटर्न आपका बना फिक्स्ड इनकम से. आपने 20 रुपया इक्विटी में लगाया, ठीक है. अभी 20 रुपया कितना परसेंट लॉस करेगा, तो 5.6% लॉस होगा, 25-30%. equity has to fall 25-30% for your overall 100 rupees to go below 100.
Right.
यानी it's not a very risky bet. आपका 100 largely 100 रहेगा, बट ये 20% की वजह से आपका ओवरऑल टोटल रिटर्न इन्फ्लेशन को बीट कर जाएगा. So as a conservative investor, still have 20% in equity. Now let's say you are an aggressive investor like me, कि 50% भी गिर जाएगा ना, मेरे पेट का पानी नहीं हिलेगा, मेरे पास ज्यादा पैसा होगा तो और पैसा डाल दूंगा, राइट? अब ऐसे इन्वेस्टर को क्यों फिक्स्ड इनकम चाहिए? So I've been in the markets, like I said, for 19 years, right? I've seen the 2008 fall. Markets, if I'm not wrong, fell 65-67%. Imagine people, hypothetically, 10 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट था, 3-3.5 करोड़ हो गया, right? I've seen that. I've seen 2013 fall. I've seen 2018 fall. I've seen 2020 COVID fall. मैंने 3-4 साइकिल्स देखी है मार्केट की. And I can tell you, aggressive people like us, उनका थॉट ये होता है कि मैं तो अग्रेसिव हूँ, मेरे को पता है मार्केट ऊपर नीचे जाता है, गिरेगा तो और पैसा डालूंगा. ओके, एंड पीपल लाइक अस आर ऑलवेज फुल्ली इन्वेस्टेड. नाउ markets give a 20-30-40% fall every 5-7 years. Now look at this situation. नंबर थोड़ा सा बड़ा ले रहा हूं so that you understand the impact. मान लो मेरे पास 10 करोड़ रुपए, मैं 10 करोड़ रुपए फुल्ली इन्वेस्टेड हूँ. कुछ हुआ मार्केट में, मार्केट 40% गिर गया, मेरा 10 करोड़ का पोर्टफोलियो 6 करोड़ हो गया. अब मैं तो अग्रेसिव हूँ, मेरे को डर नहीं लग रहा है, मेरे को पता है ये तो दिस इज पार्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग, होना ही है. पर अब मुझे पता है कि यार मैंने 4 साइकिल देखी है, मार्केट गिरता है ना, उसके बाद वापस ऊपर जाता है, तो मेरे को तो इन्वेस्ट करना है. बट आई एम ऑलवेज फुल्ली इन्वेस्टेड एज एन अग्रेसिव इन्वेस्टर. आई डोंट हैव मोर मनीज टू इन्वेस्ट, एंड माय एक्टिव इनकम इज नॉट दैट लार्ज कि मैं 10 करोड़ के पोर्टफोलियो को एवरेज कर पाऊं. मैं 20-25 लाख रुपए का माल ले लूंगा तो उससे मेरा पोर्टफोलियो एवरेज ही नहीं होगा 10 करोड़ का. I need sizable money to average this. So as an aggressive investor, I always have 20% in fixed income, hybrid kind of products, so that when the market falls, I use this money to buy the market lower.
Interesting.
So that I can average it and make more money. So everybody needs fixed income. An aggressive investor also needs fixed income. A conservative investor also needs fixed income. What I want to understand, what I want the audience to understand is कि आप conservative और moderate हो सकते हो, but please understand कि आपको equity में ज्यादा पैसा क्यों डालना है. If you are an employee somewhere, आपका employer already आपका EPF काट रहा है, NPS काट रहा है, आप PPF में इन्वेस्ट करते हो, आपने कुछ रैंडम भलता सा LIC का इंश्योरेंस लेनी होएगा, आप इन जनरल FD भी कर देते हो, तो आपके पास ऑलरेडी कितना फिक्स्ड इनकम है. ज्यादा फिक्स्ड इनकम करने की जगह पे गिव इक्विटी एन अपॉर्चुनिटी so that over a longer period of time you are able to build wealth. And while this small part of your equity may fall, the way you should really think is कि मेरा EPS तो ही, that is fixed income, right? या मेरा PPF तो चल ही रहा है, it is fixed income. So don't look at this equity allocation saying, अरे यार 20% गिर गया. Your overall money is not fallen at all.
Right.
Right. So I think that's the way people should actually look at invest.
तो अभी आपने एक वर्ड यूज किया, भलता सा LIC का पॉलिसी, वो क्यों किया आपने?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that in India, insurance is sold as an investment, which is the worst investing mistake that you will ever make. I'll give you an example. My father, some 21 years back, did a policy on my name, invested some 5,100 some odd rupees. Okay? 21 years later, and I'm not talking about small investment horizon, I'm talking about 21 years later, I received some 1,20,000 or 1,30,000 rupees from that policy back. Now, when I did the back calculation, I realized that that's made me sub 5% return. Now, you invest in an insurance thinking it's an investment. But most insurance products in the country today make you a sub 5%, sub 6% return. Insurance is only for risk management. Do not use insurance as an investment vehicle. Insurance as an investment vehicle is a very big investment mistake. Now you will say कि यार फिर भी लोग करते हैं क्योंकि उनके पास नॉलेज नहीं है और लोग करते हैं क्योंकि उनको सही तरीके से पैकेज करके बेचा जाता है. I'll explain to you how. Suppose if I tell you that 10-10 हजार रुपया हर महीना डाल समर्थ इसमें 20 साल के बाद रैंडम नंबर्स 20 साल के बाद 20 लाख रुपया मिलेगा. लाइक हाँ यार 10-10 हजार रुपया 20 लाख रुपया मिल जाएगा. यू डोंट इवन नो हाउ टू डू द मैथ कि रिटर्न कितना है. The day you start doing the math, you will understand that the return is hardly 5-6%. So, because nobody is telling you what the return is and they are only talking numbers, you don't understand what the return is and you don't ask what the return is. The day you start asking कि boss साल का CAGR कितना बन रहा है, and if they quote you a number like 9, 10, 11, 12, tell them official email ID से email कर मुझे कि ये बनेगा. Is when you will start realizing that this is not even making fixed deposit returns for me. Is where you will realize कि insurance करोगे ना सिर्फ term insurance करना है. बाकी सब you are making money for the company and the agent and not for yourself.
So do you think ULIPs वगैरह ये सब BC bracket में आते हैं?
See, ULIP equity investing करता है.
Okay.
अगर आप ULIP छोड़ के किसी भी
Okay.
दूसरे इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट की बात कर लो, होल लाइफ और पता नहीं क्या क्या, वो सब ये सब 5-6% वाली कैटेगरी है. यूलिप इक्विटी में करता है. बट आई टेल यू व्हाट द चैलेंज विद यूलिप इज, यूलिप हैज अ लॉट ऑफ चार्जेस. तो आपने 100 रुपया इन्वेस्ट किया, आप 100 रुपया म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करोगे तो पूरा 100 रुपया इन्वेस्ट हो जाएगा. पर यूलिप इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट है, तो आप 100 रुपया इन्वेस्ट करोगे तो उसको जबरदस्ती पहले आपके लिए इंश्योरेंस खरीदना पड़ेगा. आपको तो जरूरत ही नहीं है, पर वो 10 रुपये काट लेगा, 12 रुपये काट लेगा क्योंकि आपको इंश्योरेंस देना है, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली तो ये इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट है. देन देयर इज अ प्रीमियम एलोकेशन चार्ज एंड मोर्टेलिटी कॉस्ट एंड बहुत सारे अलग अलग एक्सपेंसेस है इसमें. फिर बचा हुआ पैसा इन्वेस्ट होता है. राइट? व्हाई? When you can simply invest your entire 100 rupees, why do you want these charges to get deducted and then invest?
Right.
So what these guys smartly do is, they say that the fund performed 12%. They're correct. The fund would have done 12%. पर वो 12% किस पे, अगर पूरा 100 रुपया इन्वेस्ट किया होता.
Right. Okay.
They don't tell you कि 100 रुपए में से पहले मैंने ये काटा, ये काटा, ये काटा, ये काटा, अब बचा 85 इन्वेस्ट हुआ जिसपे 12% बना. 85 पे 12% बना is not equal to 100 पे 12.
Right, yes.
It's a lot of cost over a period of time. So the simple point that you have to understand is, in insurance, you only do term insurance. नहीं, sorry for my language, नहीं मरोगे तो कुछ वापस नहीं मिलेगा. That's the right product to do in investment. Anybody comes and tells you कि ये प्रोडक्ट ले लो बहुत अच्छा है, नहीं भी मरोगे ना तो देखो इतना वापस आएगा 10 साल बाद, 20 साल बाद. No. Don't require that product.
Also, Ketan, what are your thoughts on the Gen Z spending habits and this EMI culture, buy now, pay later schemes?
Look, I'll tell you, I am by no means a Gen Z. I'm pretty old. And you will be surprised when I answer this question for you. I'm somebody who believes that I don't want to die rich. What I mean by that? In spite of being in the investment business, I am not somebody who will tell you, boss, save as much as you can. Your life will end tomorrow if you don't save and all of that. No, I don't believe in all of that jazz. I'm somebody who believes in having a great balance in your life. Because I know for a fact that as you grow old, your capability of being able to enjoy your own money reduces big time.
Yep.
What I mean by that is, when I am 60 and I have, let's say, 50 crore rupees, what am I going to be able to do with that 50 crore rupees when my body will not support me to take trips or do adventures and all of that? What do I do with this 50 crore? Nothing. Right? I want to be able to enjoy this money when I'm 30, when I'm 40, when I can do things. So look, I love the Gen Zs when they can spend the monies that people like us are not able to, because we are always glued to the future and can't live our present. So what I love about the Gen Z is that they know how to live their presence. It's just that they have to maintain a fine balance.
Correct, yes.
Don't go out of your means and fund things that you cannot afford. Because when you start funding things that you cannot afford, you will actually go into a bad loop of debt that you don't want in life, right? People don't even know. They get fascinated by people giving gyan on the internet saying, oh, credit card use karo, points milta hai, points se free flight milega, business class mein ghumoge, hotels free mil jayenge. Great. There's nothing wrong in it. I do it myself, right? But I know how much to do, right? I don't want to end up spending my card beyond the limit because it'll give me points, but I can't pay the bills.
Right.
Then I'll end up paying 35-40% as interest, which is maddening on a credit card.
Madness, yes.
So I love the Gen Zs. I love that they want to stay in the present and spend money and enjoy life, but a fine balance will help.
How do you use credit cards?
Look, I'm not a great orator on credit card related commentary, but what we do is there are a lot of credit cards that we use for our business expenses, right? Like there is an HDFC BizBlack. When you spend that, when you pay regulatory fees like a GST using that, right, you still get points on it.
Okay.
And because we run a decently large business, we pay a decently large GST. तो मैं तो वो GST ऐसे भी पे करने वाला हूँ.
Exactly.
GST का पेमेंट करने पे मेरे को points मिल जाते हैं. And because we are in business, we do a lot of travel in general, right? Let's say, for example, on our corporate credit card, we run our entire Google ad campaigns using our credit card. Right? वो खर्चा तो मेरे को ऐसे भी करना है, पर उस पे मुझे points मिल जाते हैं.
Okay.
And then, like वो points so you can use for what I just told you, for free flight tickets and all of that. So I think my style is more using business expenses on the credit card, which I'm otherwise also going to do, and enjoy the point benefits. So
and that is smart, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't go crazy doing my general spending on the credit card to accumulate more points. Because my spending is hardly anything versus my organizational spending, right? So my strategy is more deploying organizational spends on the credit card than trying to do personal spends on the credit card.
ये अभी recently, lately, silver hype क्यों हुआ था?
See, look, what you have to understand is that in equity, there are methods that you can use to figure out कि बॉस equity की value क्या है, महंगा है, सस्ता है. There are methods, right? Fundamentally designed. But in commodities, gold, silver, there is no fundamental logic. So suppose if you ask me at the juncture you and I are discussing, silver is on MCX at 2.5 lakhs. क्या ये fairly valued है, क्या ये overvalued है, क्या ये undervalued है? There is no fundamental logic in finance to be able to reach a conclusion saying यार ये 2 लाख होता ना तो fairly valued होता, 2.5 lakh पे expensive लगा. There is no method. The method in commodities is only demand and supply. Okay? So if the demand is very high, supply is very less, you say कि यार और भी opportunity यहाँ से ऊपर जा सकता है. You say supply बहुत ज़्यादा है, demand बहुत कम है, so you say यार यहाँ से नीचे जाएगा. That's your only logic in commodities. Okay? But over a period of time, people have started realizing relative valuations. What is relative valuation? Relative valuation is that now over a period of time, people in the industry has understood that silver should be typically priced at 2% of gold.
Okay.
Which means कि 1 किलो gold की value कितनी होगी? उसका 2% 1 किलो सिल्वर की वैल्यू होनी चाहिए। तो अगर गोल्ड रैली करेगा तो उसका 2% के हिसाब से सिल्वर शुड आल्सो राइज,
Okay.
right? That's
Hmm.
one way.
Hmm.
So because gold rallied so much over the last 2-3 years and silver didn't
Hmm.
initially,
Hmm.
silver had to rally because it is typically pegged at 2% of gold as value. One.
Okay. Okay.
Second, the narrative that started getting built. So technically, look, the logic that silver rallied was 2% of gold.
Right.
Gold rallied, silver didn't, silver had to rally. But once the asset starts rallying, you see commentary getting built. Now, what's the commentary that got built, and which was correct to a certain extent, that silver is going up because there is a huge demand and you can't mine silver. आप जिंक निकालोगे तो उसके साथ थोड़ा सिल्वर निकल जाता है, सिल्वर की माइनिंग नहीं होती है, ठीक है. So the commentary that got built was that the world is moving towards or changing or chasing themes that are going to be the next thing. What are these themes? So the world is moving towards EV.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody is buying EV cars. Europe में तो पूरा EV हो गया. US is talking about EV. China is talking about EV. Everybody is talking about EV. EV के लिए क्या चाहिए आपको? बैटरी चाहिए. ठीक है, बैटरी के बगैर तो बैटरी इज द मेन पार्ट ऑफ द EV बिजनेस. बैटरी बनाने के लिए सिल्वर चाहिए. तो अगर पूरी दुनिया EV की तरफ मूव हो रही है तो ज्यादा बैटरीज चाहिए होगी और ज्यादा बैटरीज के लिए ज्यादा सिल्वर चाहिए होगा. वन कमेंट्री. Another commentary was that the world is moving towards AI, right? तो आप गूगल पे सर्च करते हो हु इज कीर्तन शाह वर्सेस वही आप चैट जीपीटी पे लिखोगे हु इज कीर्तन शाह. तो चैट जीपीटी यूजेस 25 times more computing power than probably a Google search will use. तो अगर दुनिया AI की तरफ मूव हो रही है तो आपको ज्यादा कंप्यूटिंग चाहिए होगा. उसके लिए आपको पीछे बहुत ज्यादा डेटा सेंटर्स चाहिए होंगे. अब डेटा सेंटर्स बनाने के लिए वही सेम चीज, आपको ज्यादा कंप्यूटर्स चाहिए, आपको ज्यादा सेमीकंडक्टर्स चाहिए, चिप्स चाहिए, जिसके लिए सिल्वर चाहिए. So the world is moving in a direction where the next leg of technology development will need a lot of silver. तो ये कमेंट्री बिल्ड होने लगी to justify the rise or the price of silver. But what happens is beyond a point, it is unsustainable. When I say unsustainable, आपका सिल्वर 70-80 हजार किलो पर ट्रेड कर रहा था, अब वो 4,20,000 किलो पर ट्रेड करने लगेगा तो क्या इंडस्ट्री इसके लिए वायबल है उस भाव पे सिल्वर खरीदना एंड स्टिल मेक सेंस? द आंसर इज नो. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट, अभी वो नंबर नहीं पता है, मैं आपको एक रैंडम नंबर दे रहा हूँ, वो 70,000 किलो से चालू हुआ, 2.5 लाख किलो क्रॉस करने के बाद वो इंडस्ट्रियल यूज की वजह से ऊपर नहीं जा रहा था, इंडस्ट्री शायद उसको यूज ही नहीं कर पाती
एग्जैक्टली
वो भाव पे, वो फिर ऊपर जा रहा था इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड. व्हाट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड? 70,000 से 2.5 लाख सिल्वर ऊपर गया, हर कोई सिल्वर के बारे में बात कर रहा है, ठीक है, और आपने तो सिल्वर में इन्वेस्ट ही नहीं किया. पर वो पान वाला भी आपको बोल रहा है सिल्वर ऊपर जाएगा सर, एंड यू आर लाइक अरे सब बोल रहे सिल्वर ऊपर जाएगा, सिल्वर ऑलरेडी ऊपर चला गया, पर मैंने तो सिल्वर लिया नहीं है. दैट्स व्हेन द लास्ट लेग इज व्हेन पीपल लाइक यू एंड मी jump in and create investment demand for silver. When you and I start creating investment demand, तुम भी कुछ भी भाव पे खरीद रहे हो, मैं भी कुछ भी भाव पे खरीद रहा हूँ, तो सिल्वर फिर इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड की वजह से ऊपर जाता है. अब एट 4,20,000-4,50,000 a kilo, suddenly you realize भाई कुछ ज्यादा ही नहीं बढ़ गया, राइट? क्या इंडस्ट्री खरीदेगी इस भाव पे? Is there really so much of demand? Then you start questioning and logical question starts coming in. Is where market or rather we would say weak hands move out. क्योंकि एक 20% फॉल आया तो आपने तो सिल्वर में फॉल के लिए थोड़ी इन्वेस्ट किया था, आपने तो इन्वेस्ट किया था कि यार ये तो 4,20,000 से अभी 7 लाख हो जाएगा, इंटरनेट बोल रहा है वैसे. जैसे ही 20% फॉल देखते हो आप डर जाते हो. So the weaker hands will start moving out. And again the price will rationalize. अब यहाँ से कहाँ जाता है ना. So today I think the prices have rationalized after the latest fall. From here on, I think geopolitics will decide where the next leg of the rally will move in gold and silver. Because US is still claiming यार मैं ईरान को अटैक कर दूंगा, right? And all of those things are happening. Trump is talking about tariffs, and currently while you and I discuss, their Supreme Court said tariffs are illegal, zero कर दिया. Exactly एक घंटे में ट्रंप ने अगर अनाउंस कर दिया कि अंडर सेक्शन 122 and 301 आई कैन स्टिल लेवी टैरिफ्स ऑन यू, तो उसने 10% टैरिफ सब पे लगा दिया. वापस दूसरे दिन गॉट अप ऑन द रॉन्ग साइड ऑफ द बेड, हम बोलता है 10 ने 15% कर दिया मैंने टैरिफ. सो टिल दिस गाय इज इन पावर and there are some geopolitical tensions that are continue to keep happening, supply chain globally is going to get disrupted. और सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्ट हो जाता है कभी भी, तो आप देखो कि कमोडिटीज ऊपर जाती है. ऐसे फॉर एग्जांपल वो ईरान पे अटैक करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ईरान बोल रहा है मैं स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज को ब्लॉक कर दूंगा, सील कर दूंगा. अरे 20% ऑयल वहां से, सीबॉर्न ऑयल वहां से जाता है, आप उसको अटका दोगे तो ऑयल का मूवमेंट, क्रूड का मूवमेंट डिसरप्ट हो जाएगा, तो ऑयल प्राइसेस ऊपर चले जाएंगे, राइट. अब चाइना के साथ थोड़ा हुआ है हो करोगे तो वो सिल्वर एक्सपोर्ट्स पे बैन लगा देगा अपनी कंट्री में, वापस सप्लाई चेन डिसरप्ट हो जाएंगी. तो जियोपॉलिटिकली whenever there are problems, no, supply chain gets disrupted. And whenever supply chain gets disrupted, no, commodities will always benefit. So hopefully till the time Trump is around, you will keep getting news of why commodities will keep doing well. But commodities is extremely cyclical. People who do not understand should not invest in commodities. चुपचाप थोड़ा सा गोल्ड ले लो, forget about trying to do a copper or a silver or a crude trade or a platinum or PGMs and all of that, not for you. यानी I know people who've currently bought PGMs जो जिसको फुल फॉर्म नहीं पता था आज से एक हफ्ते पहले, पर ले लिया क्योंकि दुनिया बातें कर रही है उसके बारे में. Don't do that. Gold is a great commodity to have in your basket of things. Don't go beyond that unless you're a professional investor.
For 2026, what would be your top 4 sectors for people to invest in?
Oh, I wish I knew the answer to the question, but look, I'll tell you what we really like as an investment house. We like banking and financial services. We still think that the valuation, that the price to book is pretty. I mean, in some stocks we know of are still at 2020 levels. Very interesting space to look at. We like capital markets. When I say we like capital markets, I'm saying AMC stocks are a great bet. Of course, there is too much of to and fro because of SEBI regulations lately around multiple things, but I think capital market is a great story. Fintech is a very interesting story because while everybody is invested or saw the miss on the bus by investing in AI stocks, right? The first leg was AI infrastructure, where people invested or made money by investing in semiconductor stories and NVIDIAs of the world and TSMCs of the world and ASML of the world. I think the second leg to really make money is for people who are going to be able to implement AI and be able to scale or reduce operational costs. I think fintech will probably be able to do a great job there. Retail, we are seeing on the ground, is able to do a great job using AI. So BFSI, capital markets, fintech, and you have to be very careful when I say the fourth name because it is very news driven. But we think textile as a sector will do. Textile and chemicals are two sectors that we will do very well. It's already moved up at the time you and I are talking, but I think there are a lot of tailwinds for both of these sectors to do really well. So these are my picks for short term.
Perfect. On that note, I will ask you my favorite question, which I ask to all of my guests. What has been the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
I think best piece of advice for me is not to do futures and options if I have to keep the advice from an investment standpoint. I think don't do futures and options. While if you've heard us so far over the last 1 hour as an audience, you know I understand finance a little, but you will be surprised I've gone bankrupt twice myself doing futures and options. Don't do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirtan, for your advice, for your time, and being such a lovely guest. Thank you so much.
I'm happy. Thank you so much for having me.